My name is Niall. I'm class of 77, and I came to Sedona from Romeo, Michigan. Let's see, I went to Sedona to visit my sister and her first husband, summer 75, and they were friends with teachers at the school, Doug and Pat Bryant. My sister and her first husband had taught 2 electives, a vegetarian cooking class and a yoga class, and they got to know Doug and Pat, and we went out there for dinner one night, and essentially we pulled onto campus, and I think my jaw hit I was like, this is a high school? Like, I was just like, I could go to high school here? I was honestly, as I was visiting my sister and her husband for a month that summer, in my mind, I was determined not to go back to a small town public high school in Michigan. I knew I needed to do something new and different and more, and Verde Valley was it. So within a week I was meeting with Judge Mason and sending information to my parents and calling my mom and promising to do really good and work hard in school, and it fell into place. And I was a day student my first year. There were only 2 day students that summer, that year, that I recall. And by my senior year I got a half scholarship and I was a full boarding student. My impression of VVS when I first rolled up was first the physical beauty of surrounded by the red rocks. My family and I were from Idaho, so we grew up around mountains, but I had moved at a fairly young age to Michigan. So there was something in my DNA that liked to be out west. And so we've got these red rocks, we've got the trees blowing in the wind, we cross over the creek, and then the buildings, just these beautiful Spanish-style buildings with the tile roof. But the other thing that was so apparent to me was we had dinner with 2 teachers at the time, and I could talk to them. It didn't seem like the normal teacher-student relationship that you have in a public high school, where there's an authority and you're sort of someone that's meant to be herded through a program and controlled. I could have a conversation with these people. The same thing happened when I went to have an interview with the director of admissions, Judge Mason. I was honest with him. I told him I hadn't been doing well in school, but I knew I was smarter. I did well in early junior high. I was kind of skating. I was kind of gliding by like 9th, 10th grade. And it just really was apparent to me that these adults, teachers, I could talk to and relate to and be honest with. And I knew that that would be a really healthy environment. And I'm putting into words now that I probably couldn't then, but it was instinctive, like, this feels right and I can thrive here. And my obstacles and challenges that were dragging me down in a public school, I had a feeling just I was going to be able to transcend those obstacles. On campus, was there a place, probably for me, was hiking off campus. Yeah. I was an avid hiker. Horseback riding was my sport because it got me out in nature. I think one semester I petitioned to have hiking be my sport, and I think it was approved because I'd been to the school for like a year and a half. Then I realized, no, I'm going to hike anyway. I should have horseback riding, so maybe I'll learn something. But really just getting up on the red rocks at least twice a week. Over in Turkey Valley, over on Napoleon, over on Crusader, up Cathedral, just anywhere getting out. I mean, Monkey Face. I mean, I look in that valley and I literally hiked everywhere I could that you can look at least once. So it was just getting out. I mean, sometimes I'd look back at the school and realize, okay, I got 20 more minutes till dinner's over. If I get there in then 15 minutes, they'll still be serving, because it was so important to me to just get out in nature and just hike around. There's probably about 3 people that were the most influential adults. I'll start with, just the fact that I was honest with Judge Mason and I still got accepted. My grade transcript wasn't great. I really liked Jerry Cunningham, the head of school during those years, because he was just a real hands-on guy. But the people that I spent the most time with and that I really related to, my first year would have been Sean Owen, because I took a photography class and he was the head of my field trip, and he was just so many things that he did. I think, I might be wrong, but I think they started a Friday night movie program. I don't know if it was every Friday or once a month, but he brought in movies like silent movies and, Seven Samurai and La Strada and Fellini movies, and even like Red Rock movies with Jimmy Stewart marrying some Indian princess by Red Rock Crossing. But he brought in movies, Jules and Jim and Truffaut movies, and so I'm pretty sure it was Sean. But also then my senior year, I have to say, and I'm going to name them as a couple, but Maggie and Cliff, because Maggie was my English teacher and I took drama, and Cliff was my U.S. history teacher. And I think, with all due respect, I think Cliff might have been the better actor. Because his stage was U.S. history class and he was so impassioned, and a teacher that cares about their subject can make you care about just about anything, probably economics, even though I never had that teacher anywhere. Cliff was just very alive, and he was easy to talk to and really fun, and he could get you to care about American history. And Maggie, also kind of another jack of all trades on the campus, teaching English, but drama. I think I was in 2 dramatic productions, and she just made it fun. And I never pursued anything, even, amateur or play acting, anything after that, but it was just so inviting to get involved. So I think of Maggie and Cliff so fondly, and I'm still in touch with Sean on Facebook, and I'm going to ask him if he's the one that got those old movies onto campus, because they were really cool. Probably the experience or experiences that sort of embodied my time at Verde Valley, and they're not academic, it's more maybe work jobs. One of my work jobs was in the kitchen, and usually it was just showing up in the morning and I was serving breakfast or whatever, because the cooks were cooking and then they didn't have to serve it. And but also, for a couple years I was a vegetarian, and the vegetarians were allowed to go in and cook twice a week. So we'd all sign up and people would take turns. You didn't have to, but it was sort of voluntary. And one time I made a dish, my sister gave me the recipe, and I scaled it up, and I made it for everyone, and everyone really liked it. And that felt really good. And then another time, I don't know where this came from, out of the blue, I made eggplant parmesan for the entire school lunch. Like, there was no alternative. There was no meat eggplant parmesan. It was a vegetarian eggplant parmesan, and that was lunch that day. I'm sure there was salad and all the other bells and whistles that they had for lunch, and I made it. And I don't know where I had the chutzpah to realize or think that I could make lunch for 120 people, but I did, and I got a lot of compliments, and it felt good, and I've been in kitchens for the rest of my life. I left Verde Valley and I worked in a kitchen in college, and then I worked in restaurants when I landed in LA, and boom, next thing you know, I've owned 2 bakeries, and I've worked in restaurants and written cookbooks. So somehow those first experiences in a kitchen started at Verde Valley, and there you have it. I think the influence VVS had on me in a lot of ways was or is, because it still feels alive. Well, my best friend, I met my best friend. He was a year older than me. I was a junior, he was a senior, and we've stayed in touch and been on trips together to Mexico and Costa Rica, and road trips and camping, and we've had a lot of fun, and I've stayed in touch with other people. I think in a lot of ways Verde Valley was, I tried to go to college and I really didn't connect with it. I think Verde Valley was sort of the apex of my commercial, or not commercial, but my institutional education, and college couldn't really match up to it. But again, I developed adult relationships with, or the ability to communicate with teachers and see who they were as people, and they saw me as a person, and we were able to communicate. And I've spoken Spanish a little bit, but I had 2 years of Spanish at Verde Valley. It's been integral to working in kitchens for the most part. And I remember my Spanish teachers. I remember going to their house. I remember having tea with them. They would enter sometimes. Occasionally students, teachers back then would have a class in their house. And so you'd be sitting there. So you got to know your teachers as people, but they got to know you as people. And that's really stayed with me. And that's one of the reasons I think Verde Valley is so important. And I'm just happy to see the school continue to grow and thrive. Yeah, I'd go back to young me, who did a nature field trip in the Gila, in wilderness, southern New Mexico, which is amazing, and then a sort of solo trip to an ashram experience in Tucson. I'd go back to young me and I'd say, go to Mexico or go to the reservation. Don't pass up that experience. That's the one thing I would probably do different. I think other than that, I was very aware of how lucky I was. I think I had transcended some of my personal problems that can drag students down in high school. So I think I really grabbed the juice of Verde Valley when I was there, but I sometimes think, yeah, it would have been cool to live with a family in Mexico or a family up on one of the reservations for a week or 10 days or whatever it was, because that's clearly not something I'll ever do this lifetime, you know.